Samantha from Jessica Tutorials here, and welcome to day 19 of the Cracklathon, where I'm doing a crackle every day for an entire month. So today we're going to be using white polymer clay that is rolled out in a thicker setting, which is about 2mm thick for me, and isopropyl alcohol, and it's quite important to get at least 99% pure. And you can get this basically at your hardware store. I got it from here, so if you are able to get to that store, you'll be able to get it there. Okay, and today we're going to be doing a textured version. So I've got this really nice wood grain stamp, and you can see I've already been using it quite a bit. And we're just going to take our clay and roll it, pop it on top, and this is Primo white clay, in case you were wondering. Then I'm just going to take a wet sponge, and I prefer to use a wet sponge than cornstarch now, simply because it means that the back will dry and won't have a permanent non-stick effect, which is what the cornstarch causes. Okay, and so I'm just going to continually press this into the stamp. Okay. Then we're just going to lift that out. Okay, and now you might notice that the surface is a little shiny. I had to put a little bit of liquid clay on the front of my white polymer clay because due to the really thin lines in this texture, it's a little bit more tricky than some of the other textures. So if you have not already watched my tutorial on stamping tricks, please do check that out. One of the tricks is if a texture stamp is really giving you a lot of trouble and your clay doesn't want to stick inside the texture stamp, what you can do is before you put your clay into the texture stamp is you can take a bit of translucent liquid clay, smear over the surface of your clay, and then proceed as normal with the liquid clay side down inside the texture, and it works like magic. It works really well. Okay, so I'm just positioning that so it's nice and in the middle here. I'm just going to take a wet wipe and I'm just going to gently remove some of that liquid clay. But it's not going to be a very big issue or anything like that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to choose our alcohol ink colours. I'm going to be using a Adirondack Ginger. You can see I've used these ones quite a bit. I'm also going to be using Terracotta. This one accidentally spilled, as you can see. So now I work with them all standing up permanently. And Sepia. Okay, so I'm going to start with the darkest, which is the Sepia. Give it a quick shake. And I'm also going to be using a brush for this technique, because I'm going to drop the alcohol and then I'm going to brush. And drop. And brush. And just repeat. Like so. Okay, and I'll just pop that off to the side. Bring over my next one, which is the Terracotta. Drop that and brush. And this will kind of blend those inks together, and I don't want it to be too dark, not at the moment anyway, and I would like them to kind of blend together. And I'm also going to be using the brush to get it down and into those crevices, but we're going to need to do a few layers before we get a really nice colour. And now I'm using the ginger. And I'll just continue until I have basically covered up all the white. Okay, next step is going to be to take your isopropyl alcohol and give this a good soak. Like so. And then again, put your ink in and swipe it around. And be a little bit more generous with the ink this time around. And the reason I didn't do this in the beginning is because I really wanted that ink to soak up in specific areas. Now I'm just adding colour to it. so that it goes a bit more of a dark colour. And I'm not changing my brush each time, I'm using the same brush so the colours are intermingling with each other. Okay, there we are. Now I'll just quickly clean off my brush while that dries a bit, and just blow on it to get it to dry. Okay, and then I'm just going to take a wet wipe and I want to dry up any areas that are still quite wet. And all this dawdling is definitely for a reason, because you want this ink to sink into the clay and to soak in thoroughly. That's quite important to the technique. But I don't want too much wet ink lying around for the next step, because it's had enough time to kind of soak in. So next step is going to be to basically take your isopropyl alcohol, spray again, dab just on the surface, and then blow to dry it. Once that has dried, spray again, dab, and then blow to dry again. And repeat this about 10 times. Okay, and I'm almost done. I've just got one more spray to go. Okay, and dab, and you'll see that the alcohol ink has been removed even from the dabbing. And if you want to highlight some areas, you can stroke your piece, and you can see that that exposes a bit more of the white clay. Okay, and to get it dry properly, I like to use a hairdryer or the lowest setting on my heat gun, just to blow for me, because I get a light head from blowing so much. So I just lifted it off the tile so I could clean it, and I also rolled out a backing clay, which is fairly important, because especially with texture pieces you can see that they start to rip. You can see there's a rip over there, so I like to always put them onto a backing before the next step. Okay, and then trim away excess. Okay. There we are. And it's quite a nice look already now that it's dried. Alright, now I want to go slowly with this. I want to start gently stretching. Okay, and I just had to dry the tile quickly. There. Okay, so I've just stretched it a little bit. You can also use your roller to roll over the surface. And I'm hoping to start seeing some cracks. You might not see there at first. Okay, and at this point you should be able to see at least some. So if you can't see any at this point, then you have not dried your clay out enough, and you can go again with your isopropyl alcohol and dab it again, and then repeat about 5 times. Okay, and I can see some cracks starting to form now, so that's what we want. Now I'm just taking a tissue just to dry up any ink I can get hold of, like so. Okay, and now we're going to start rolling this. And every once in a while just stop and dry again, because the ink in the gaps always is wet unless you leave it for a while, which you don't have to do. Just dry it every once in a while, and it should go fine. Because I don't want the alcohol ink to seep in. After I've made this technique, I like to generally use it on a project straight afterwards, just because the alcohol ink is fairly light already, and so I like it to stay a fairly strong colour, and so I like to use the technique straight away. And I can see that there are some cracks showing up, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this through the pasta machine on the thickest setting, lengthening it. And there we go, you can see the cracks came through there. And that is just about how far I will stretch it. I don't think I need to be stretched anymore. And it's got this nice wood grain pattern with the cracks. And now you could highlight these cracks if you wanted, but I quite like the white showing up against the dark background. It looks really nice. But if you did want to highlight the cracks, don't run it through a pasta machine. You will have to roll it by hand, stretch it, roll it, stretch it, because the pasta machine basically just flattens it all out. Whereas if you do it by hand, there is a little bit of a crevice where each of those cracks are that you can highlight. So that is basically it for this tutorial. Keep in mind you can use any colour inks and you can use any texture you want. So play around with it and have some fun. This technique I've actually used extensively on my YouTube channel. I'll provide some links to some videos using it. It's a really fun technique. The results are quite different every single time, and they're always really fun to play around with. So let me know what you thought in the comments below, and if you would like to vote for this crackle as your favourite crackle, please join my group Jessima Tutorials Polymer Clay Community on Facebook, as we'll be having a poll at the end of the month to choose which crackle was everybody's favourite, and the most popular crackle will get a project tutorial the following month. So be sure to go and vote for your favourite. And if you haven't already seen the previous videos, we have about 18 now, please do go and have a look, because there are a lot of different techniques covered. If you don't happen to have isopropyl alcohol or even alcohol inks, so long as you have clay, you will be able to find a crackle that will work for you. So go and check that out, as I'm sure you'll be able to find many different crackles that you would like to play around with. And remember to tune in tomorrow, as there will be another crackle tutorial. And as always, I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.